Hi everybody, I'm back again with more information about living in Topeka, one of the most affordable cities in the United States. I have a number of little snips that I'm going to show you around my neighborhood. I'm going to talk to you about the mentality of the maintenance of the homes and the overall area, and I'm going to give you some insight into a little bit of how crime is in this part of the world. Everyone thinks you live in the Midwest maybe and everybody's kind and gentle, and that's not true. Not at all. It's just as bad as living in a big city. We have one of the highest crime rates for its size in the entire United States. We also have one of the highest taxes compared to the rest of the United States. Kansas is a highly taxed state. I mean, it seems like you're not paying a lot of taxes, but that's all relative because the houses are not as large and the houses are not sold for as much money. So they're not assessed as much and they're not appraised for as much. So that is something that people need to know and need to learn about. So if you need information about what an assessment means versus what an appraisal means, you need to go and look that up, because my house is assessed for, $12,000 because the tax rate is 13%. And if it was actually, assessed for 120, I'd be paying a fortune for taxes. So there's a difference between assessment and appraisal. So you need to know what that means. And the tax rates are very high here. We have not only property tax on your home, but property taxes on your car as well. So if you want to buy a really nice car, expect to pay a nice amount of taxes every year. Every January, you're going to get hit with a tax bill for that. And if you want to go food shopping, they're eliminating part of the food tax, but that's another thing. Taxes here on anything else is over 9%. So if you go to the store, you want to buy clothes, you want to buy any non-food items, you're going to pay 9.5% about. And if you want to know, the infrastructure is so poorly maintained that they're starting to raise all the prices on your water and sewage is going up $9 a month as of next year, because they've let the infrastructure go for so long, where they now need to replace all the water lines throughout the city. And they complain nonstop about, people can't afford to do this. People can't afford to do this. Well, they let things go for so long. They don't encourage people to fix their homes. They don't encourage the property values to go up because of the way they maintain the entire city. So they're getting what it is. I mean, you're going to get what you pay for. And that's a lesson in life that everyone needs to know. If you think there's non-existent, like I said, crime here, that's wrong. If you think that it's cheap to live here, it is, and it's cheap because the houses are small. So let me just preface that. The houses are small, so of course a smaller house is going to be less expensive. And you can buy a house cheaper here because the houses are old. There's no new construction, very minimal construction of any kind. And the only new construction I know of is a beautiful development called McFarland Farms, which the houses are $500,000, the lots are $70,000. So they're not building low-level homes to accommodate people. They're only going to now build the nicer homes. I haven't seen any developments where you're going to find something under $300,000. That's new here. So you're basically just like anywhere else in the United States. I moved from Texas, and that's basically what it amounted to. So let me give you some of my little brief tours that I did around the neighborhood and give you my insight into what you should expect from Topeka, Kansas. This is the view from my back door, and I put up a privacy screen over the side of this fence because we only have a chain link. If I can give you an idea of what a house is like. That blue one right there, that's a rental. This house over here was a rental for years, just recently sold for like $88,000, and they couldn't even move in for like 4 months because they were doing so much work on it. This house, an older gentleman lives in, and this house has been vacant forever, for almost 2 years. I don't know if it's a foreclosure or what it is. But these are the houses that, when they're talking about buying a house for under $125,000 in Topeka, these are what they're talking about. They're usually 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 3-bedroom, 1-bath, may have a basement, no basement, not really done up inside, need all new appliances, kitchen redone, they're probably paneled. So that's something that you have to consider when you're looking at homes. Also around Topeka, see this empty lot? That's something that is commonplace. It's owned by the town, they do maintain it, but don't know why it's there. People, this man over here, see this was a tree that was cut down and they didn't bother to have the stump ground, so it's just growing another plant right out of it. There's a pile of dirt that was left there for almost 2 years when they redid a backyard and did some raised planters. People don't take up the leaves off of their property. They've had over 2,000 complaints for people who are not maintaining their properties. They have to keep it under 2 feet, and if they don't, then the town can come in and do it for you and bill you. So that's another issue that goes on all the time in Topeka. So last year, 2,000 complaints for people not taking care of their properties. I want to give you a bird's eye view of what my street looks like. They've been doing construction for almost 2 years on this particular road. It's one way, and you can hear the workers in the background. They're just almost done with doing like a 4.5 mile stretch of road, and they put in all new water lines in the road. The infrastructure in Topeka is very old and it's very poorly maintained, and now everything's breaking. They've had numerous water main breaks all over the place, and now they are going to raise the water bill on everybody about $9 a month starting next year to cover the repairs that are going to have to be made on future streets. So right now, this is where I'm at, and I'm very fortunate because they are doing it in front of my house. I'm getting all new water lines. They're fixing the connections to the house. They're putting in sidewalks, and they took down a lot of old trees. So I'm very fortunate in that regard, and I just wanted to show you how far it goes. It goes way down. I'm telling you, it was a 4 or 5 mile stretch from Gage Boulevard all the way up to Kansas Avenue. That's the part that separates Southwest from Southeast Topeka. From where I'm standing right now, I can point out down this street probably 4 to 5 rental homes. This one with the blue car, the one next to it, the one next to this man's house is a rental. There's 2 down at the end of the street that are rentals. And over here, just down my street, my next door neighbor is a rental. The person with the car on their front lawn is a rental. That's another thing that's real common to people. People think they can just park their cars on their lawn. I don't get it. I don't understand why, but they do it, and that's something else you'd have to contend with here. It's just a mindset. I don't know where it comes from. So here's something. This is something that you will find in Topeka. People keeping their toys out on their front lawn. Not sure what that's all about, but people do that all over the place. And similar to them keeping their cars parked on the front lawn. It's just a mentality, it seems like. To give you an example, here's a yard that's really not maintained that nicely. And then you'll find the neighbor keeps the yard pristine. And that's usually about one home is keeping it beautiful to 6 or 7 that are not really maintaining the properties that nicely. Don't ask me why. Again, mentality thing. You'll see people who keep a lot of yard art on their lawn. Some of them go overboard, which is fine. I don't have a problem as long as it's neat and tidy. Another thing people do is they're allowed to have farm animals, chickens in their backyards. We actually have a neighbor that allows the chickens to roam freely all over the place. I don't know why they would. There's so many cats around here that are just out unleashed all the time, day and night. So it's just one of the things that goes on here in Topeka, along with the dog barking, the lawn's not being maintained too well in certain areas, people leaving their garbage cans out all week on the sidewalks, people not maintaining their properties, keeping toys on the lawn, putting a car out on the front lawn. It just goes on. And that's in the regular areas that are houses that are probably between $50,000 to $150,000. It's more commonplace, I would find. When you start getting to homes that are more expensive, there's a beautiful neighborhood I'm going to show you. It's called Westboro. They have Tudor-style homes, colonial-style homes, homes that are, $400,000, $350,000 to $400,000. Those houses are beautifully maintained. They're also older, but that's where you're finding people have they're a little more conscious of taking care of their lawn and their property, and they respect their neighbors a little bit more. So this is just a side street, and this is generally, like I said, what most of Topeka is going to look like as far as the houses, the sizes. To get more downtown, there is a historic district where they have some of these really old wooden homes that are just, half of them are falling apart. Really, they're dilapidated in a lot of ways. The area is not that safe. And if you really wanted an old restored Victorian, you probably want to go to a neighborhood called Potwin, which is right on the border of the Kansas River down by 1st, 2nd Street. And that's where you would go to find an old restored Victorian home. Kind of reminds me of Lady and the Tramp. But outside of that, a lot of the older homes are very, very poorly maintained. They're super old. They probably need a lot of work. They're in the area of Topeka that's not that nice and safe as far as I know. And this area around here is okay. We have incidences every day in Topeka of either crime. It can be violent crime. It could be someone mugging somebody for their pocketbook. We had a lady mugged in front of the Humane Society. We had somebody hurt outside the academy when someone was running away from stealing stuff. Just down at the corner from my house, there was gunshots at 2 a.m. because people were, arguing. It's just nonstop here. It's very commonplace. And if you talk to some people, especially in the people who live in Westboro is only a block over from me. And I talked to some lady one day about the crime here, and I said, do you know how often bad stuff is happening here? She goes, oh, I didn't know any of that was going on. I said, you don't listen to the news, or you don't read, or you don't hear about this? Almost every single day there's something bad happening here in Topeka as far as a crime of some kind, and a lot of it is involving another person, either with guns or it's not just burglary, it's guns and violence. So that's something to consider when you're moving into an area like Topeka. You need to know where you're living, what to expect. It's not all roses and great times. There's a saying, what you get what you pay for. And because things are just not they don't accumulate a lot of taxes because of the tax rate. Even though it's pretty high here, the houses are so small, they're assessed pretty low, that they're not going to be appraised that high, so they can't tax people that high. They'd have to start with property taxes that are like 20% to get people get the services up and going, and to get rid of the crime, and to be more forceful on getting these things maintained on the roads, and following up on people not taking care of their animals and the lawns and just everything. So I just want you to understand that it has its good side, but that's some of its downsides right now. I'm going to show you Topeka in all its glory. It has so many fun and nice things. I have never been accosted. I've never come across anything where I've been hurt or I've had an incident with getting hurt or getting mugged or anything like that. But it is commonplace here, so you just have to be careful and watch what you're doing. We don't have a lot of high-end shopping here, so you're not going to see people walking around with diamonds and Louis Vuitton and wearing designer clothing, because that just is not commonplace here. So maybe that is part of it. I don't dress like that anymore because there's no reason to dress like that here. This is the Midwest and they don't really, they're like a live and let live type of environment, but sometimes that doesn't always play out so well. So let me turn this off right now. I'm going to stop doing the outside video because the dogs, again, are just incessantly barking and people keep them out all day long. I hope I didn't scare anybody off too much for moving here. I live here. I'm happy living here. I don't have any complaints about living here. We did downsize in retirement and we did a financial downsizing by moving to this smaller home. So it works for us. But there is that flip side that you always have to consider. And if you're not prepared to accept some of the differences of living in a city like Topeka versus where you may have lived before, where you were in a high-end neighborhood, high-end homes, high-end shopping, then you might not be ready to do a move to a city like Topeka. If they can just kind of move forward and get their act together. But again, I find that this is common too. A lot of capital cities are not well maintained, and I don't know why, but they're not. Lincoln, Nebraska, which is the capital of, Lincoln is the capital of Nebraska, and it's 2 hours north of here. They are rated as having, as a capital city, a higher quality of life than Topeka. It's only 2 hours away, but it's a different state. So it goes by who's managing the money, how the money is being managed, and who's in charge. So people, want something cheap, they're going to get cheap. I mean, I can tell you right now, I don't know how many people said, oh, they're fixing the roads, my taxes are now going to go up. I mean, if it goes up $100 a year to have infrastructure that's updated and to increase the value of your property, I think it's well worth it. And I know some people are struggling. We have a 17% poverty rate here in Topeka. So there are people struggling. It's not all gold that glitters. 30% of the workers are employed by the government here. Other than that, if you're not working for the hospital or the school system, you're in a service job or manufacturing job. So there's not a lot of big industry, not a lot of executive positions here as far as I know. So, I mean, it is what it is. You're going to have to go with the flow and know that this is a different way of life than what you might be accustomed to if you're coming from a high end or a high rent district. So let's just take it as it is. I hope you enjoy this video. I'm going to have another video where I'm going to actually tour the Westboro community. I'm going to show you the actual shopping that's here in Topeka. I'm going to show you the Potwin neighborhoods, some of the venues we have here. Like I said, it's not all bad. We have a lot of great things here. So let me just preface that by saying, I want you to know the good, the bad, and the not so bad. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Take care and stay tuned and look for my next video coming out shortly about Topeka. Bye.